So I had something I wanted to talk about, and I had something prepared. And based on the last 2 days of keynote speakers, I did the only logical thing, which was to completely scrap that and start over. So, so I apologize, but I do want to talk about something, and it's based on a lot of the conversations that we've been having over the last 48 hours and over the last couple of stuff. I think, there we go. I think that it's been blatantly clear, or at least they've tried really difficult or really hard to make us aware that our industry is changing. And I don't know about you guys, but I have literally been in or around the wireless industry my entire adult life. So since before I graduated high school, I started selling phones, and I've been in this business. And I can tell you that it's not the same business it once was, and I've never seen more changes than what we currently have. And I think that point has pretty much been made clear over the last 48 hours. The question that I keep getting posed, and the things that people keep asking, is at what level do you believe that? At what level do you agree with or disagree with the changes? I think everyone is in some part of that pendulum where they say, yes, I completely agree, our industry is going through the biggest shift it's ever gone through, or no, I'm not so sure. It seems kind of like it's business as usual. But I want to talk specifically as to how that relates to store design. I found this picture and I love it. Some of you will remember, that is right there in the black space, that is a Motorola MicroTac. Right? Who remembers the Motorola MicroTac? This was the AT&T flagship store at the launching of the Motorola MicroTac. You know the saddest part about that store, and you guys don't have to raise your hands, but how many people have a store that still looks exactly like that store? We've got some phones on display, we've got some posters on the wall, there's some brochure holders on a shelf. Our industry has changed drastically between the launch of the Motorola MicroTac and today, so why haven't our stores? Neat, it goes the opposite direction as the clicking button that you hit. So the question is, what is the future? I'm not going to waste a ton of time on that because I think that horse has been beaten over the last couple of days by pretty much every speaker we've heard, right? So there's some major changes. So the question I think that a lot of us are asking, and I know it was the question that I heard murmurs walking out of the keynote presentation this morning was, okay, great, I agree with him at some level or another. What the heck do I do now? What's the next step for me? What's implementation? What do I do with all of this information that I know that the industry's changing, right? I had some awesome stats on M2M devices and all the different things that are going to happen in our industry. And we know some of the challenges we face, right? You guys are all retailers, and you guys probably all are very familiar with this list. One of the things that I wanted to add to this list now, right, is more educated consumers, right? That's one of our challenges today, is consumers are more educated. We're dealing with a different customer base, right? Other things, carrier mergers. I'm sure there's a lot of people in this that can relate to everyone's gotten that phone call where you hang up and go, call the sign company, we're going to change them all again. And if you've been in this industry long enough, you've probably been through some of that. Profit margins are an exciting topic that everyone wants to talk about. So I know everyone's excited about selling the iPhone as we are. There's nothing like touching as much money as you possibly can, but not keeping very much of it. So those are some of the challenges that are going on in our industry, right? So here's the deal. I kept getting asked, and this wasn't originally my intention, but I'm going to do it, because people are saying, well, what did you guys do? What are you guys doing to prepare for that? We didn't like the options that were out there. And so we went about trying to find a different solution, something that we could do to future-proof our stores. Because I'll be honest, I don't know that we know what's going to happen in our industry in the next 12 months, 24 months, 3 years. We don't know that information, right? So the struggle is okay, well, how do we plan for that? How do you plan for not knowing? Well, in a word, the answer is flexibility. That was our solution to it, was how do we come up with the most flexible retail environment we can possibly come up with? What drove us to this is something that, some of you guys might have dealt with, in that most of our store design has been dictated by the carriers. And I don't know if you guys are aware of this, but the carriers have a very different business model than we do. Their profit centers are not the same as ours. Yet, we allow fixture companies to dictate what we put in our stores based on them copying the carrier stores, who have totally different profit centers. So the struggle that we had with that was, well, I understand alignment with the carrier, and that's the big question, and that's the big elephant in the room that we always ask is like, well, but the carrier. They want us to be aligned with them. And I think that's fair, and depending on who your carrier is and what status you have with that carrier, heavily dictates that and how much you have to honor their branding and whatnot. But I think you can do that and still create a modular store if it's something that you feel like you need to completely honor the carrier's branding. Or I feel like you can go the opposite extreme. If you're trying to do your own branding, to do something unique, or find a balance in the middle. I think that's a struggle that all agents deal with, and I think it's one of those very real struggles that no one really has a good answer for sometimes. We went, obviously, with an extreme approach where we honored the carrier's branding very little. And it works for us. It works for us in our market. It doesn't work for everybody, but it works for us. Some of the solutions that frustrated us and some of the things that we wanted to solve where we wanted flexibility. I never could wrap my brain around the idea of buying a cabinet with 8 holes drilled in the top of it. Because what happens if I need to display 7 phones or 9 phones? Do I just throw the fixture away or replace the countertop? Or how does that work? That never made any sense to us. And I can't tell you how many stores I've walked into over the years, and every one of you, and everyone's guilty. We're still guilty, right? The post with the stick-em tape stuck to the top of it and no phone, right? So those are one of the things we wanted to eliminate, on top of fixing some other challenges like inventory control and all that kind of stuff. So we developed a system where our employees actually re-merchandise our stores every day based on what's in stock. We don't have phones on display that aren't in stock that day. It takes about 30 seconds to pull them off the wall. And we subscribe to bundled pricing currently. We like bundled pricing. Not everyone does, but we do. So we not only take the phone off the wall, but we take the bundled accessories that go with it. That was one of our solutions to solving that problem of flexibility, because we never know what's coming, right? I don't know if anyone heard, but about 15 minutes ago, they launched a new Motorola Razr. I don't know how many people were aware that that was coming, but it just happened. So there's a new lineup that's going to be in our stores, between now and the next 48 hours or whatever. And how much time do we have to prepare for that? Very little. So that was our solution, was coming up with a modular display that you can pull a phone on and off literally in minutes, instead of having to deal with the idea of reconfiguring a system massively, right? So that was one of the little pieces that we tweaked. I'll tell you that our inventory turn rates have gone up, and a lot of other things have been really powerful from that. The other thing, we picked a system that was modular that could be completely reskinned. I will say all of our stores look like this. They all have this system in them. It's got an MDF board skin on the front, and for $1,500 to $2,000, we can reskin the showrooms of every one of our stores. So if we decide tomorrow that cherry and black is really the color scheme that we want to go with, we can do that. Or if somebody launches some sort of POP promotion or something like that, we can incorporate in that in a modular aspect that we don't have to mess with. Or is very inexpensively to do, that we can do without recreating a completely new fixture system. So I will tell you the other thing is, for those of you that are interested, we weren't sure. We knew that IQ was headed somewhere with XQ. We think they're on the right track. We think they have a great idea, but we're not exactly sure how it's going to fit in our business. But we prepared for it by creating a system that it will literally take us about 20 or 30 minutes to install XQ in all of our stores, because those walls are ready for it. You hang a bracket on the back, you put the media player behind it, there's cable management built in. We knew that. It's flexible. We can add 2 screens, 5 screens, 4 screens, because we knew that was coming, and we don't know what the future holds, so why not make it modular and as modular as possible so that it's flexible, so that tomorrow and the next day it can always be different and changing. There's a whole lot more to that. I'd love to discuss it in a whole lot more depth, but based on the questions I've been getting asked by a lot of people over for the last 2 days, I wanted to address this and show people what we had done. I'm not saying that we have the right solution for everyone's business by any stretch of the imagination, because everyone has different challenges that are unique to them. But the thing that I want to ask you guys is when you walk back into your stores next week and you look around, and don't walk into your flagship store, walk into all your stores and ask yourself, are we ready for the future, or am I going to have to invest in completely gutting everything and starting completely over as the 85 million M2M devices launch in the next year, or as the next big thing happens, or as I get that phone call that says, oh, by the way, you're with a different carrier. So those are some of the questions that I want to prompt, and ultimately, I guess my real challenge to you guys is to challenge the status quo and challenge what we've been told and some of the things out there and what we're being fed by the carriers. Not that they're the enemy, but they have a different business model than we do, and so obviously the solutions they've created are going to fit their business model. So I hope that makes sense. If anyone else has any questions or anything, they can obviously holler at me later.